Alright guys, so I've got a really interesting watch for you here, one that I don't think you're going to have seen before, and possibly even a brand and movement that you haven't seen before as well. So, as you can probably tell from these opening shots, it's got a really cool vintage retro look to it, but obviously with the added benefit of having modern materials and an interesting movement too. So this is actually a sister brand slash sub brand of Merkur. I've checked out some of their other ones before, but not this one. So this is the review of the Pierre Philippe 1952. So because it's a brand you probably haven't seen before, I'll start off by showing you what it comes in, because it is actually pretty nice and also useful too. So with the brand name embossed on there, some nice stitching as well, and then if we unzip it, again nice quality zip. Open it up, we've got the watch. Quickly pop that to one side for a second, and I'll show you the inside of this because it is really nicely finished, nice and soft, nice and plush, going to protect your watch, and if you want to go travelling with it, it's handy for that too. And then here's the actual watch. So I think it's a really cool design, really interesting, something a bit different, but they do actually have a few different variations with this one. So as I said, this is the 1952, but they also do a 1950 and a 1951, which as far as I can tell seem to be the same case, but they have different dials and different handsets. So if you do like the look of the case on this one, but you're not so keen on the dial and the handset, maybe check those out. Link in the description for all of them, they're all in the same listing. And they also have a few different colours of each as well, so if you're not keen on this colour, they do have different ones. And depending on which one you go for, obviously you'll get a matching strap. So before we get into this properly, let's talk about the pricing. Because it's on AliExpress, it's a little bit complicated. So the full retail price is £203, $269, €233. But at the time of filming this, it's actually on sale, so it's currently £188, $249, €215. But it doesn't end there. That's not the final price you're going to pay. With coupons actually on the store, I can get it for £156 in the UK. Obviously, depending on your country, that might vary slightly. So again, make sure you always follow the stores. Check if there's any coupons so you can get the best possible price. Now all that's out of the way, let's get down into the review properly though. Starting with the dimensions. So it's 38mm diameter, 10.1mm thick, 20mm lug width. Then when it comes to the lug to lug, this is pretty interesting. So there's no visible lugs. If I turn it on the side, you'll see what I'm on about. So they are actually hidden kind of under the case, which means that the lug to lug is actually shorter than the diameter of the case. I'm measuring it about 36.5mm. So that is really interesting, not something you see that often. And then when it comes to the weight on this supplied leather strap, it's coming in at 53 grams. So we'll start off by taking a closer look at that. Just going to zoom in. So we've got the Pierre Philippe branding on the buckle, and then when it comes to the strap, it's a nice vintage style leather one. And again, we've got the branding on the back of that, and then genuine leather, but it's not your standard leather strap, as you can probably tell with the way it joins to the case. So we've got curved ends on there, and we've also got quicker release, which is a nice touch. So although the lug width is 20mm, you may struggle to find straps that are going to fit with these slightly odd curved ends. But either way, I do really like the way they've done that. I think it's really cool, something a bit different. But you're probably looking more at the movement at the moment, so let's talk about that a bit. We've actually got quite a few of the specs written on there, which is quite handy. So it's a 24 dual movement with an 80-hour power reserve, which is really impressive. And it's also high beat as well, so 28,800. And then we've got the movement number there, that's 7A, 10A. So I won't actually show you the movement in action and go through all the different functions and everything now. I'll do that later. We'll carry on going through the actual case head of the watch. So if we move around to the side, and we'll talk about the side profile a bit, because again, this is quite nice and quite different. So now we're zoomed in a bit more, you can see that the case does actually kind of taper down towards the bottom, where those lugs are, so they're kind of underneath the case as I alluded to earlier. We've got an unsigned crown, high polished finish, as is most of the case really. Nice detailing on the bezel. And then we've got that double dome crystal just sticking out over the top. We'll be checking in a bit if that is sapphire. I just think it's a really interesting case shape and case design. But now let's get onto the dial and talk about that in a bit more detail. Because again, there's some interesting stuff going on here too. So the branding is all printed, as are most of the indices, apart from the 12, 3 and 9. Then we've got that sunken sub-dial, so we've got a bit of depth to the dial there. We've also got a bit of depth just generally. The actual centre section of the dial, where the numbers and everything are, is slightly lower than that outside ring, where you've got those seconds. There is quite a lot going on the dial, but I think it works well, because they've broken it up into like a few different layers almost. And then when it comes to the hands, I think they suit this perfectly. But again, if you aren't keen on this handset or this dial, they do a couple of different variations. But for me personally, I think the 1952 is the best of the bunch. But let me know, do you agree? Some people might say that their hands look a little short, in particular the hour hand maybe. But on the whole, I think they've pretty much nailed the dial. But now let's check out whether we've got sapphire crystal on this or not. Using the trusty diamond selector tool, starting with the front. And yep, we have got sapphire crystal there. Let's flick it over and check out the back. And that is only mineral. Not all that surprising, pretty common. So now let's get back onto the movement. I'm going to show you this in action. So we've just got a push-pull crown here, and it is actually really nicely recessed into the case. If we're going to zoom in, you should be able to see it a bit better. I do appreciate that. It's a nice little touch just to help keep the slimness down and just keep it a cleaner look, with it having those hidden lugs as well. So getting back to it. So if we pop that out, just the one position, and then you'll see the second hand has stopped. So we've got hacking, and then obviously we can just change the time. And then if we pop it back in, second hand will re-engage. And again, it's high beat movement, so you do get a nice smooth sweep on that second hand. And again, we've got the 80-hour power reserve as well. So the full name for the movement is the Hangzhou HZ7A10A. So I'd be interested if any of you guys have got any experience with this movement. But now we're going to check out the loom. Yep, this does actually have loom, believe it or not. And as you can see, it is a really impressive and really cool looking loom profile. So they don't specify on the listing what it actually is. It's a bit of a shame they haven't loomed that second hand on the subdial. That would have been quite a nice touch. But given the style of watch, the question is the loom we've actually got going to be usable, or is it just a token gesture? Let's speed this up now and find out. So to begin with, not a great deal of change, but you are going to notice it is going to fade fairly quickly. Not as quickly as some watches in this kind of style. It's not completely useless, but it's not quite at the point where I'd say it's that usable. It's kind of borderline, which is a bit frustrating. So I'd like to see them add a few more layers. So all that's left to do now is show you how this unique looking watch actually wears on wrist. Does it wear well, or does it look a bit odd? Also, we're going to go over the pros and the cons as well, so you can decide whether you want to pick one of these up or not. And here it is on my 7-inch wrist. So I think it looks really good. Again, if you're not keen on this colour, they do different colours, which also means the strap will be different colour too. When it comes to the head of the watch with those unique dimensions, this is how it wears. So I think this might be a really good option for both men and women. Unless of course you've got big wrists, then this one won't be for you. And if you wear it a bit tighter, you can see it kind of sinks into your wrist. But even if you don't have it tight, it's nice and slim anyway. I'm really liking it. Again, I just think it's a really interesting design with some really great specs. And if you pick it up at that price that it's on at the moment, in the UK at least, £156, I think it's a bit of a bargain. And I've said it a few times already, but you're getting an 80-hour power reserve, high beat movement, double domed sapphire crystal, quick release bracelet, which is pretty unique with those curved ends. Although if you do want to change straps, that could be an issue. The only real issue, I think, bar that one, is the loom. If they're going to go to the trouble of doing it, because it is a really interesting loom profile, just add a few more layers on there, so it is a bit more usable. I'd normally say with this kind of style of watch, don't bother, but because it is so interesting looking, I think they should actually just add a bit more. But I'd like to know what you guys think. Do you agree, or do you think they should get rid of it altogether? But as I say, apart from that, I can't really fault it. I think it looks great. I think it's got really good specs. I think it wears really nicely, and it just looks different. So if you're interested in picking one up, links down in the description as always. That is an affiliate link. It does help support the channel, but you don't pay any extra. And again, they do have different versions of this, so make sure you check out all the different ones if you're not overly keen on this style or handset. And again, with this one, they do have different colours, as they do with all of the different models, the 50, the 51, and this 52. But that's it for this one, guys. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.